So, in this video, I'm going to show you how to create a histogram. In my first example, we have an example of a frequency table, and it shows how much caffeine is in the different types of tea, and we want to make the histogram to represent that data. So what I like to do to start off with is I'm going to look at creating a title for my histogram. So I look at this as talking about the caffeine content in our certain types of tea, so I'm just going to call it caffeine in tea. Now, I'm going to look at my x-axis and my y-axis, trying to figure out what I put along those. If you remember back to the other video that I had, I'm going to start with the y-axis. The y-axis is going to have our frequency along it. So I'm going to write frequency, in other words, the number of times that each one of the intervals happens. And then along the x-axis is going to be those different intervals, which is going to represent how much caffeine is in our tea. So I'm going to put caffeine down here. I'm going to extend this just a little bit. That's kind of far. We didn't need to go that far, but right there. So I'm going to put caffeine. And then in parentheses, I'm going to put mg for milligrams. Now we need to have our different intervals. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different intervals. I have 5 places on my histogram already set up. So in this first one, it's going to be from 1 to 20. The second one is going to go from 21 to 40, 41 to 60, 61 to 80, and 81 to 100. Now it's just a matter of making those bars. So for 1 to 20, we have 7 of them. Oh, no, I need to have my frequencies here, sorry. Let's get that in there. I'm just going to have each one worth 1, and then I'm going to only mark the 2s every 2. So 2, 4, 6, 8, and then we'll be up here at 10. All right, now we can make those bars. So the first one has 7, so I come up here to 7. I'm going to make my bar and color that in. My next one is up to 8. The 41 to 60 interval has 2 in it. There are no T's with 61 to 80, so I don't have anything for that bar. And then last but not least, the 81 to 100 also has 2. So I make one more bar. And we created our histogram for the amount of tea in the different the amount of caffeine in the different teas. Now this next one is going to talk about the number of points the Hutchinson boys basketball team scored in the 2009-2010 season in each game. And before we make a histogram, it'd be really nice if we had a frequency table to organize our data. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through each one of the games and put it into one of the different intervals. Now I've already created those different intervals, but that is something that if you get a table like this, you have to come up with, what do I want my intervals to be? So what I like to do is I like to look at the biggest number that I have and the smallest number I have, which I believe in this one was the 37 and 87 points. And then histogram, remember we always like to have somewhere between 5 and 7 intervals. I decided that I would go with 6 intervals on that one because I have that point spread of 50 points. I went from 35 all the way up to 94. It allowed me to go up by intervals of 9 points. So in this case, it's just a matter now of putting tally marks in all of our different spots. So I start here in 79. So it's just a matter of tally mark. A lot of times it's kind of nice just to cross them off as you go so you don't forget one. 71, 60. Hopefully I don't make a mistake. 52, 72. 72 again, 76, 70, 87, 63, 68. we're up to 5, so I'm going to put the slash through. 80, 49, 81, 60, 71, 71 again, 55, 58. That puts us at 5 in that interval. 80. That puts us at 5 in that interval. 60, 63, 76, 63, 64, 86, 76, 77, and 37. Now that I have all of my tallies in, now it's just a matter of going through and counting them up to figure out my frequency for each interval. So in this one I have 1, 2, 9, 7, 8, and last but not least we have 2. Now that's going to make it a lot easier for us to make our histogram, which I'm going to do on this next page. So now we want to create a histogram of the data. So like I did in that first histogram, I like to create the title first. So of mine, we're going to go with points per game, because it's talking about the points the boys basketball team scored in each game. Remember, along our y-axis is our frequency. How often does it happen? And I think for this one, again, we can, since we had, if we go back here and we look at our frequencies, they were anywhere from 1 all the way up to 9. I'm just going to go from 0 to 10 on my histogram. And I'm going to go by 2s again. So 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. And then remember, along our x-axis, that's going to talk about our different intervals, which is going to talk about the points scored in each game. So I could probably title my x-axis the same as I did the title of this graph. So I'm going to call it, well, we're just going to go points. We just need that. And then we just have to have our intervals. So come back and look at those different intervals. We had 35 to 44, 45 to 54, so on and so forth. So we went 35 to 44, and that was 45 to 54, 55 to 64, 65 to 74, 75 to 84, and 85 to 94. And now we just need to make those bars. So if we remember this, which I don't, so I'm going to flip back and forth, we had 1 in the first bar, 2 in the second. So we got 1. You know what, I like the color coordinated system, so these were red. So we had 1 in the first. We had 2 in the second interval. Our third, whoops, wrong way, sorry. Hint, hint, what's coming next. So then we have 9 and 7. This one's got to go way up here to 9. Our next one had 7. And our last 2, 8 and 2. 8. And last but not least, 2. So have now created a histogram for the number of points that that basketball team scored in the 2009-2010 season, which now it's kind of nice. We can see very quickly which interval had the most points scored in the game. Not points in a game, but for example, this interval right here, 55 to 64, that's where they scored most often. And now that is going to conclude my video on creating histograms.